It's the Vegas Toy Squadcast, starring Vegas Toy Squad.
Hey everyone, welcome to Vegas Toy Squad and our Squadcast. This is episode number 7.
Are we going to say that every time, the episode number? Or
I don't know, I just feel like we should. I just feel like we should. You know, it's just...
We'll have to keep track, that means.
I know. Well, I'll keep track.
It's going to get into the hundreds.
It will soon enough.
Eventually. Anyways.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Rick.
I'm Frank.
And I'm Rob. And in the back, we're not going to forget
That's right,
today,
don't forget this time.
At the very beginning, we have Patricia.
Hello, everybody.
Running the show from behind the scenes. As usual. Diligently.
As usual.
That's awesome.
So, we have to welcome the potentially millions of new listeners
That's
we have.
right. We've got some exciting news this time. I mean, we're excited about other stuff too, but
yeah, we're on Spotify now. We had our 5th episode a couple weeks ago, and so it takes a little while to get those things, the wheels churning.
Right.
But so now we've been picked up by Spotify, and the world is our oyster.
that is true. And we are on Google Play. I know I couldn't find it.
Oh, you found it?
But somebody was like, oh yeah, I just went on Google. You're on there too. So we're on Google Play as well.
This thing is going to blow up. It puts a lot of pressure on, doesn't it?
Yeah, don't bomb.
A lot of pressure.
I mean,
Don't choke.
It's hard talking about this geeky stuff,
so that's really cool.
That is cool. We are excited about that for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What else are we excited about this week? You guys got anything new?
I got something new.
Uh-oh.
I got something new. I do.
Look at he's like a...
I picked up some sets.
Toy store. Wow. What you
A
got?
lot. I don't know if you can see it over the mic here.
Well,
I'm going to give one to Rick over here.
On the podcast, they can't see it at all.
True.
On the podcast, listen. See if you can guess what it is.
It's the Lego.
Somebody should take a picture.
Lego Harry
Here,
Potter
I'll hold it
sets.
for
There we
you.
go.
Aww.
We got
Frank's Toy Hall.
the new
Wow,
Hogwarts.
these are cool.
They are cool.
We actually we had a $100 gift card from Target, and
Oh, wow.
so I was nice enough to agree to us buying Legos with it instead of something we actually need.
Wow.
You kind of need this though.
Yeah, no.
Kind of.
I'll admit I'm very jealous.
That's what got us into Legos in the first place. Honestly, the first time Hogwarts Castle went into clearance, I bought it for Celia to make during the summertime because I was working and she was going to be off because she teaches, and now we have the first Hogwarts, and now we got this one.
So this is
Second Hogwarts.
I was gonna say second
You have the
generation.
second Hogwarts.
Second generation. So this is like
the
third?
This is the third.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this
Wait a
is the
minute.
third Hogwarts.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
Third Hogwarts.
Yeah, this is the third time they've released Hogwarts. Or parts of Hogwarts.
Well, and this isn't even like the biggest set that's released. The biggest set is it's Hogwarts Castle, and it has like 20 minifigs, like
The
microfigs.
Yeah, microfigs.
And it's like $300, $400, something like something outrageous. But it's got all the little tiny rooms, and it's like a mini version of Giant Hogwarts. So
Does this one have nearly headless Nick?
one of them do.
Points for you for knowing
One
that.
of them.
See?
Yeah, it does. Right there.
Right
There you go.
There he is.
Aw, so jealous
Awesome.
I wondered if that was him floating along there.
Yeah, that's him.
with his nearly
I love
headless
the,
face.
It blew it half off.
Yeah.
I love
wondered
the
if he also was
updates.
pulled back.
The updates that they did on the minifigs for here, because
Yeah,
now
they're
they've
pretty
got different legs for them as well. So like these are actually the kid versions.
Shorter ones.
So their legs don't move, and then there's a transition leg between, with one hole behind each ankle. So they're like the teen ones, and then they got the full adult ones also.
So you can have them grow.
Did you know they had those?
No, I did not.
Like teenage and child.
I wouldn't have known if Rick
It's
Rick
just the
told me.
short legs.
It takes a true Lego aficionado to know
For
this.
sure.
Well, I've been able to hold off and not get any of the Harry Potter sets, but I am religious about getting the minifig sets. So they the latest blind bag minifigs from Lego are the Harry Potter, and they have the different characters in there. It's also the largest minifig set. I think
It was
there's-
enormous.
Yeah, there's like 24, 20
I have no
of them,
idea.
I don't know.
Are they different ones than the ones that are in
Yeah.
the set?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
These are
there's
exclusive to the box, the sets.
right.
Correct.
Is there a chase figure in the mini bag, the bag ones?
It took me a long time to find Dobie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was a hard one.
The
to
house
find.
elf?
Yes. Harry Potter has given Dobie a soul. So he does
That was the world's
I'm
quietest.
going to shut up now.
You do that really well, honestly. That's
All right, can I put this?
Yeah, for sure.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool. That's what I was excited about this week.
Very nice. I was excited about something, so excited that I actually forgot it. I was going to bring it here.
Yeah.
But if you've watched any of our recent podcasts, you've probably heard me talk about the Silver Surfer Marvel Legends action figure. You're probably sick of hearing me say it. After today's podcast, I won't have to say anything else about it because I finally found it. So it was kind of cool because we were in Walgreens and I was looking and one of the workers from Walgreens saw me and he's like, "Did you find everything?"
Did he see the forlorn look?
He
on your
must have,
face?
yeah. He must, because he saw me do the quick look through, and I was like,
Yeah.
"I ain't got nothing." He's like, "Well, did you find everything you're looking for?" And I was like, "No." He's like,
He knew.
You need a surfer, don't you?"
He knew.
I was like, "Yes." He's like, "I think I have a couple in the back." So he went in the back and he came out with two. He's like, "I know how you guys are. You probably want to look at the box." And I'm like, "Honestly, I'm just going
You
to
don't
rip it
care.
open anyway, so I'll take either one." I said, "It doesn't matter to me."
That's great.
So I bought one and I left one there in case anyone else was looking because I don't need two. And yeah, so I finally got the surfer. So maybe next time I'll put them up or you'll see them, but I won't talk about not finding them anymore because now I have them.
You can give everyone a look next week.
Yeah, that's right. The surfer.
That's your new Silver Surfer. I have no Gamorrean guard to show. Somebody, if one of our listeners, especially one of these millions of new Spotify listeners who, there's...
Or Google Play listeners.
Or Google Play. I can't, I should...
iTunes, what's wrong with you? Come on.
I did submit to iTunes and we
Right.
haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
taken them a while, but they're,
and respect to Podbean.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Hey, that's right. We're hosted on Podbean. And,
Right, so that's our mothership.
They've been very cool so far.
Mhm.
I like it. They send tips on how to put your stuff on all the big, sites. And,
Cool.
Neat.
yeah, it's been a cool site so far. So what was I getting to?
You were talking about
No
Gamorrean Guard.
Oh yeah, I was going to
You're
say
saying
somebody
one of
could
the listeners could.
Yeah, I could send one. People send gifts to their favorite podcasters.
And where would they send it to?
Send it to Vegas Toy Squad, care of. I don't know. If you just put Vegas Toy Squad, it'll find it.
It'll find its way.
It'll
Okay,
make its
yeah.
way here.
Maybe if you just send it to via Santa,
He's just going to wish it.
Santa.
To the North Pole, and then he can bring it.
and then you can bring it to Rob. Yes.
So anyway, I don't care. I'm over it. I don't need a stupid Gamorrean guard.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
If I saw one, I'd buy it. But
Did
I'm
you-
not going to hunt for it anymore.
Did you guys see the new wave of the vintage Star Wars figures that are coming out? Or I think they're hitting shelves now. I saw people putting on Facebook
I did.
about Enfys Nest is one of them.
Why don't I?
Solo.
Vintage? What do you mean vintage? Like package?
Well, the package. What is that series called?
Oh, the
The,
new 4-inch series
Yes,
that
yes.
have the double band, like the,
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know what they're called. I don't do 4-inch figures.
Oh, that's true. But I actually might get a couple of those because I liked Enfys. And there was a couple of them. I can't think off there was a couple of the troopers from Rogue One that looked pretty cool.
Yeah,
The
I got
Death Trooper.
Yeah.
the Mimban Stormtrooper.
Oh, okay,
is
yeah.
pretty cool looking. I don't know what it is, but it's just a Stormtrooper that's got dirt all over him.
Oh, okay.
So, that makes him Mimban.
All right.
I don't know what I guess I'm not paying attention enough in the new movies. People would say I'm not a fan because I'm not up on all that stuff. But it's a Mimban Stormtrooper. That's
All right.
part of that line. But I'm waiting for a Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they will. They've got to. They have to
Oh
release
yeah,
it.
it's money
For
in
sure.
the bank.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm excited this week about repping my Swig shirt.
There you go. That's a cool group on Facebook, by the way.
We every once in a while we like to throw a shout out to some things for our millions of listeners. And David and the group at Swig, I think we're all members,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think so.
It's a nice group of Star Wars fans, and
they're very cool to each other. There's nothing.
lots of respect, and just a nice bunch of people. So
it's very cool.
If you're looking for a group of Star Wars fans to join, check out SWIG, and then I'm inventing things. Believe it or not,
I know. I'm impressed with
we're
what's
on
going on
DL right now.
at the Rob household.
We'll have some invention news coming up pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, because
we're about ready to bust loose on this thing.
Our brains have been turning, so we've got a lot of things that we've
cranking
been
stuff out.
talking about and drawing pictures and.
So yeah, we'll have some news pretty soon. But
Hopefully.
I've just been working like a banshee, getting things made, designed and made, and ready to
go.
We'll do a Kickstarter and get our fans on there.
No, that's not too cryptic, is it?
Everybody's doing it.
Got to keep it under wraps for now.
Yeah.
It's on the DL, but it is coming.
Oh boy! Here
Speaking
it comes.
of made things.
So what's this episode about again?
So for those of you who are listening and you can't see this, you really got to check out our YouTube, because today we're talking about fantasy films of the 80s. And as soon as we did that, I thought of this big, huge battle axe that I have in my hand here, because one of my favorite movies as a kid was Conan and Conan the Destroyer. And after seeing that, I wanted an axe. So like any good father, my dad made me an axe. And this is the same one that I had since... You're going to put that cheesy music in it.
I already thought of it.
I'm just sorry I forgot the helmet. I have the Conan helmet. I can't believe I forgot about it. It's sitting up on my shelf.
That's why you got the helmet.
Conan, I'm like, I don't have any Conan helmets.
But
I was like, or things.
This was my Conan axe from when I was, 8 or 9 years old, riding my bike and
swinging
pretending to decapitate bad guys up and down the suburban streets of
not everyone has
Ohio.
A childhood axe.
I know, that's what I say, and it's not a guitar, it's an axe.
And it's held up very, very well. For those of you listening, you'll have to check out the video on YouTube, because this is awesome.
Stop listening on Spotify.
That's right, don't stop listening on Spotify.
Check out the video so you can see some of this stuff.
Yeah, you can at least skip to it and then, that's what it looks like.
Well, that's cool. You should display that in your home somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that would be
Your
great.
man cave.
Maybe. But there's so many Lego in there, I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no room for axes with all the Legos.
There's not much room in there.
But like I was saying, that's kind of what our focus is going to be today. We were reminiscing the other day, and it seems like people just could not get enough of fantasy films in the 80s. And then once we started talking about it and thinking of all the different titles, everything that was coming out, that was when when Dungeons and Dragons got big.
Yeah.
I remember my dad, every year, he was big on Boris Vallejo and Frank Frazetta. One of those artists.
Yeah.
And Frazetta used to do, Molly Hatchet?
He did that.
The Molly Hatchet album covers.
Yep.
So my dad used to have those fantasy calendars. And then I did doing some more research. There were so many fantasy toy lines in the 80s.
I always forget about that.
It's like, I was like pulling stuff up and I was like, I forgot about that. I had that too, or I had that.
Wow.
So, anyway, that's what we were talking about is the sword and sorcery movies, or
Sword and Sandals.
like Rob likes to call them. Yeah, say that again. I love that.
Swords and Sandals. There's different names for the genre. I mean, in a wide sense, they're just considered fantasy films.
Right.
But I've heard swords and sorcery, swords and sandals, But at any rate, they're the great films of the 80s that just were complete cheese and
Gore.
Boobs, always.
Yeah.
Someone has to mention that.
They did occur.
That was a big part of of that genre. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but almost every single one had just
some kind of
rape scene or so. We do. Vegas Toy Squad officially does not condone that kind of behavior.
Right, exactly.
No, but I mean that's you couldn't really get away with that.
No, it is funny because you think about being in or going back to the 80s and people thinking, it was a much quieter time or whatever people say when they reminisce.
Yeah, simpler.
Yeah, but you watch those movies and even like with the action films, and I don't want to get us off course, but F-bombs galore.
Yeah.
And then, tons
Lots of gore,
just
tons
gore
of
and
nudity
nudity and like every.
That was a big thing in the 80s.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like thinking about the 80s and then thinking about like the superhero movies now, they're everywhere. But I don't know, would you say 80s was the golden age of fantasy films?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Like, absolutely. As far as
Pick a
film,
side, man. Pick a
as
side.
far as
Yeah, you can't waffle on
film-wise,
this
yes.
podcast.
But I mean, when you think of like Game of Thrones, that's brought it.
Okay,
back.
but that's not
Like
film. That's not film.
I know,
It's film
that's what I'm saying. I
quality.
said film-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's kind of brought the genre back, and I see you kind of see things coming and trying to repeat Game of Thrones and just trying to bring that stuff back. But as far as film-wise, I can't think of anything that was like jumping out at me other than like the remakes of the old ones like Conan and Hercules and. And that's stuff that just kind of went under the radar.
A lot of the newer crop of those kind of fantasy films are all straight to video and small.
Right.
You've got, dudes and dragons and.
Oh, that
Age
was
of
fun,
Dragons
though. That was a fun one.
A lot of kind of smaller, lower budget. There's nothing really, I don't think, that compares with those classics of the 80s,
right?
Like Dragonslayer, Excalibur, Conan the Barbarian, and how many Conan movies were there? 3 or 2?
There was 2, yeah.
And then Red Sonja, which is
I kind of consider that a Conan.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do. I mean, you can weigh in, comment. What do you guys think, Conan? If Red Sonja was a Conan movie, in my mind, it was a Conan movie.
Yeah. Well, she was in one of them, so why wouldn't it be a spin-off of it?
That's what I think, but
Going back to what you were saying about the art and those guys, Frazetta and Vallejo.
Yeah.
And I used to go into the bookstore and get the Vallejo book and just pour over those images. But then they would put those on the cover of the VHS. If you remember, that was kind of a hallmark of the fantasy movies of the 80s, were these great, Vallejo covers and Frazetta covers. And you're like, oh my God, this movie looks amazing.
Bait and
then you
switch.
get home and pop it in, and I was looking at the art for Deathstalker, and I think it might be Frazetta.
it might be.
And he's like, there's this creature with this big club, and then I put the movie in, and I'm like, that's not even, I don't even think that thing is in the movie.
Right,
Are you looking it up?
I'm looking up just to see if it is. Yeah, it's not coming up right now, but it's like,
It's such a tease.
right, and then you, like you said, you pop it in, and you're like, wait a minute, where was the great monster?
Yeah.
Where's the great creature?
It's kind of like, almost like the album art, of the 70s. VHS did VHS art kind of was the same.
Right.
What it did for that genre is what, album art did for the record in the 70s. They sold a record based on the,
whatever's on the cover.
And VHS was kind of the same way. It was that big, platform and showcasing that cool art to sell these
I
really
agree.
crappy movies for the most part.
I agree.
Beastmaster. And,
But it suckered you in.
Apparently success.
got you in, yeah.
Apparently success.
Yeah.
Before we get too much into like talking about the individual movies, just quick, off the top of your head, what was maybe your top 1 or top 2 favorites that you can come back to real quick?
As a kid, I'd say Willow. Willow, right off the top of my head, in Conan, the Conan movies, and Beastmaster. Probably, those would probably be 3 that I could just rattle off right there.
Oh, for me, it's Excalibur, way at the top.
Yeah.
And Dragonslayer. I love Dragonslayer. I like the Conan movies, but they didn't do for me. I was into more of the kind of the creatures.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll talk more about some of the creatures and some of those kind of movies. But yeah, I think for me, there's no comparison to Excalibur, and Dragonslayer is up there for sure.
Yeah,
My number 1 of all time, Sword and the Sorcerer.
Sword and the Sorcerer.
It's funny. I love that sword. We'll talk about that sword. That was one of my favorite swords out of all the movies, out of all the genres.
Pretty cool.
I think mine is in line with yours, except I would put Conan on top, and then Excalibur, and then Dragonslayer. If I had to do a ranking of the 3, those would probably be my 3 that I remember.
Now, does Clash of the Titans count
That's another one.
Or is that like a
I
Greek
would
theme?
throw-
Greek theme something different.
I would throw that in there.
That
because,
is.
I think
Because-
You know, I mean,
I saw, at the last Ren Fair, I saw the Clash of the Titans, the sword and the shield.
The shield?
So they've got
And the
swords.
helmet, and I was like,
Are
how
they
did you
in
see the shield? It
sandals?
was melted by Medusa.
well, somebody saw the movie, I guess, and they made it.
Wow.
But I thought that was really cool, and I was like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
no,
great
that's-
movie too.
But I don't know if that
That's
fits
classic.
in.
It does
Yeah.
because you've got swords and you've got sandals, and it's
Yeah,
a
that's
fantasy.
true. That's
So
right.
that
You've got
covers the
sorcery.
genre.
Sure, there is.
Absolutely, Clash of the Titans. That may even be my number 2 or number 3.
It's up there. I just kind of like I didn't know if it fit in that genre.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Is that the only one that had a Pegasus? Is that the only time
It's the only one I can think of.
Well,
Like
Pegasus
80s
on
wise.
film in the 80s?
because Labyrinth was a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No.
No,
Legend.
Legend.
Legend was
That's right,
unicorn.
That
Legend
was
was.
Legend.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
That's
Yeah,
fantasy.
another one.
It's
They had
fantasy.
like little troll elf
Lizards
little
and
was
lizards
another
elves.
and-
favorite too.
Fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still can't believe Tom Cruise was in that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's
That's
just,
one of the few roles Tom Cruise is,
Subdued?
acceptable in. It's one of the few times I can handle Tom in a role.
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, he's listening. so.
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
I'm sure he's a nice fella.
Vegas Toy Squad is officially a fan of Tom Cruise.
Especially in Legend.
But yeah, and Mia Sara, Tim Curry was incredible.
Yeah.
That movie was magical.
That movie was good.
At least for the times.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, there were so many. It was.
Do you have a list? A chronological list?
Well, I had that sheet and it seems to have disappeared. So I had it
That was
out.
one job.
No, it was out. And I've been looking for it.
I think I have a photo of it on.
Because, yeah, it was,
made a list.
it was here.
Yeah,
Chronologically.
I got. Yeah, it's right here.
I got that.
So when we were, do you want to see it?
Well, no, I was going to have Patty.
All right. But it was interesting when we were going through that list and we were picking out years. It seemed like 81, 82.
Absolutely.
Holy cow! I
Absolutely.
mean, seriously.
Not to mention Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, we didn't go into any of the sci-fi.
I mean, those first, the 80 through 85 were
Yeah.
unbelievable years for movies.
Right.
But strictly in the fantasy genre, you had all the great ones. I mean, once we got past 85, then we started getting into like
Sequel land.
sequel, like
That's true.
Beastmaster 3.
Straight to
Revenge
VHS.
of
So
the
let's
Ferrets,
start
or-
maybe with 1980.
Yes.
Now, this one, definitely fantasy. Not sure about the sword and
I feel like I'm on a
sorcerer.
quiz show.
Flash Gordon.
I don't know if that's.
Sci-fi.
So we're taking that one out.
Take that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Discuss
There
it.
are winged warriors in that one.
And technically, maybe as a
movie.
sorcerer.
and Robin Hood people.
Just because it happens in space doesn't mean it's not fantasy.
I'd still
Or,
say
that makes
sci.
it
I'd still say sci.
That's
Alright.
sci-fi. Yeah. But,
We
okay,
have to divide the
Anything
genre
with spaceships.
oh, that was 80 though, huh?
that was 1980.
Holy cow! All right.
Wow.
Then we start in 81. We've got Dragonslayer. Oh, I'm sorry. No, let me back up. Also in 1980, Return of the King.
Oh yeah. Rankin and Bass.
Was that the
So that
cartoon?
was
Yeah,
That was
cartoon.
80.
one.
That was the third.
Yeah, but they
So
didn't
they
do-
started that series.
Well,
earlier.
they did The Hobbit, and when we were doing research for this, we saw The Hobbit was in late 70s.
Yeah.
But then they didn't do anything else with any of the other Tolkien works and then they did The Return of the King.
Ah.
And so
Remember that? Wasn't that video like 3 hours too? Remember
no,
the
because it was the
being-
cartoon. You're
I thought
thinking
it was
of,
that cartoon
there was a
pretty
Lord
long.
of the Rings movie that came out in the 80s.
That I don't remember.
That
I remember
was-
the cartoon. I thought it
Well,
was really long.
It
too.
was live action, but they colored in the cells. It was a combination of live action and
scope
animation.
That's probably the one I'm thinking. Yeah.
Mhm. And that one was really long. That was long.
That was the Ralph Bakshi, or is that the? Because there were Rankin Bass,
It wasn't a Rankin and Bass one, no. This
And-
one, the Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
was
Yeah.
in theaters.
the same dude who did Fire and Ice.
Yes.
I think.
And these are the one, that movie has the Knickerbocker toys from Lord of the Rings that are like worth tons of money
From
from that movie.
cartoon.
Yeah, that
From
cartoonish type movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one, yeah, that I can picture it. I can picture the horses and
Yes.
the riders.
Yeah, the
And
Wraiths.
they
Mhm.
took it was actual film, and they just
And they
painted
colored
over.
it.
Yeah,
That
really
it was
cool
cool.
process.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a neat thing.
So 81 was an amazing year.
Hit us.
81 had some of our absolute favorites that we've already mentioned. Dragonslayer, Excalibur, Clash of the Titans. Right there. At least those three just in 1981.
Yeah.
That
Big
was-
time.
yep.
So discuss.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Excalibur was great. On so
Excalibur
many
is the
levels.
king of
I
these
mean,
of these movies. You know, I mean, I think Excalibur is
Why
one
do you
of
think
those.
that, Rob?
Let me tell you, Rick. Excalibur. What I've learned is it's kind of a love it or hate it movie. What do you think? Love it or hate it? Or
He's,
are you
he's
on the
looking
fence?
I'm on the
wishy-washy.
fence. Like I think I just haven't seen it in such a long time, and like again, I was little when it came out, so I mean I haven't seen it as many times because you didn't really get that many playbacks like on television.
yeah,
So
no.
you get it maybe on a Saturday, like randomly on some.
And they cut
channel.
out
You
the
get
good
lucky.
stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was a kid though too when it first came out, so I mean, I liked it a lot,
Yeah.
but I just remember like I was more still into all the younger stuff directed towards kids. So I'm just obviously I'm gonna go towards Clash of the Titans there,
Yeah.
like with all the Bupo the owl and the Pegasus and the giant Kraken. You know, I mean when I was younger, like I said,
No, yeah,
like
of course.
Bubo.
Bupo, whatever.
I think Excalibur is a much more mature
Yeah,
type of film
For sure.
compared to Clash of the Titans.
Yes, I could
that's
agree
what it is.
there.
it's a heavier. You know, it has more a weight to it. I mean, it's a very, from what I understand, it's a very thorough and precise retelling of the story of the legend from the Sir Thomas Mallory book, Lamort Arthur or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean just the spectacle of that movie and
Right.
the opening scene with the battle scene, you know, limbs and heads and things flying. And, I mean, you know, you don't see, of course you see that stuff in movies, but it was all practical in
Right,
those days,
right,
you know. I
yeah.
mean,
Right.
now you got blood and everything flying, and it's all CG, so
It's not as
it's easy.
Right.
But that opening scene, I think I actually snuck into Excalibur after seeing Empire.
Empire. Okay.
I think I was at the theater and saw Empire, and then snuck out and saw. So I was 11.
Did you not?
Yeah, no, we.
No, you were not 11. I was 11. 1981?
What was I? Oh, I was. Yes. So anyway, sorry.
You were talking about sneaking in, and we don't condone sneaking into theaters.
Definitely do not recommend that.
That's right. Purchase
But
your ticket.
I was a kid. I was reckless. I didn't know better.
That's right.
Yeah. Just don't purchase. I was going to say movie cost, but we're not.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
The funny thing is, I snuck into Excalibur too.
Or sneakers.
Because I was.
That's what we were talking about. I guess I was 13 or 14.
Right.
So I was right at that age where that kind of
Yeah.
movie, it was like, whoa, you know.
Well, I realized doing this that, as strict as my parents were, they took me to a lot of rated R movies as I was
Oh
a
yeah.
kid.
They took you to
Which is
Excalibur.
kind of funny, yes.
Wow.
Well, because my dad was a huge fantasy film
Yeah.
kind of person, and it was one of those things where they would just, reach over and cover my eyes or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It got on the screen or whatever.
I'm a tricky. That's funny.
But I remember so many images from that movie, and it's probably been, I don't know, 7-8 years since I've seen it last.
Really?
But, the armor
it deserves a
and-
weekly.
Yeah.
Weekly.
Maybe not weekly. That might be too much.
Maybe semi-yearly, like by
Yeah. But I remember that, especially that ending scene with he was fighting his son.
Mordred.
Yes, and the gold armor.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that was really cool. There's a lot of cool images, and then Merlin with that silver piece on his head, and just the way he
Yeah.
talked. His voice was so cool in that movie.
It was a
He's
very
still a fun
serious.
child.
Right. It's a very serious film.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, Gabriel Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people you don't remember being in this movie. Helen Mirren.
Yes.
Jeez.
These were
Yeah.
they were not names back in that.
You got to watch it again, Frank.
Yeah,
I do. It's been so long. I literally tried to watch all of these films I was trying to look up last night just for one of them.
You need like 4 days.
Well, I just wanted to watch one of them last night, and I couldn't get any to pop up. Any of the
sad.
streaming apps that I have, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me! There's got to be at least one."
No.
There's not. Unless you have one DVD.
A lot of them haven't been released yet on Blu-ray or anything.
Yeah.
Have they?
Waiting for Dragonslayer, waiting for Excalibur.
Because I have Dragonslayer, but I have it on DVD. Yeah, I have Excalibur on DVD. But yeah, they haven't been many.
They may have released I take that back. I think they did release an Excalibur Blu-ray.
All right, I'll have to check.
So.
I'll have to check and see.
But yeah, that's, there's nothing compares to that movie in my mind.
Right.
From the music, the Carmina Burana, when they're riding through and the land is turning green and, that score is playing.
Yeah.
And the armor is just beautiful. Every scene, it's just a masterpiece, I think.
Right. It's great.
So, but we can move on to...
Conan?
Well, maybe not so much. But yes, let's talk Conan.
So in 82, we got the first Conan. We got the first Beastmaster.
Kodo and Podo.
We also got a couple of animated ones. We got the Dark Crystal. Well, not animated, but puppeteered. And also the Last Unicorn. We got a classic Ator, the Fighting Eagle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorceress. And Flight of the Dragons.
That was all 1982.
That was all 82. So 82 was a heck of a year.
But none of those are really noteworthy.
Except
Oh, come on.
Sword and the Sorcerer,
Sword and the Sorcerer.
Beastmaster.
Conan. Those three, Conan.
In the
So in
animation
other words, I
world,
have no idea.
in the animation world, The Last Unicorn has a pretty decent cult following. That's another Rankin and Bass.
Okay.
And then they followed that up with, I think that one was afterward, was the Flight of Dragons.
Okay.
So that one was kind of...
I gotta see that. Right?
And
Flight of Dragons is very similar, well, not very similar, but there are some similarities to Neverending Story, where it kind of starts off in modern times, and a kid visits a store, and he, hears a story, and then he talks about, the Flight of Dragons was the last time the dragons were on the planet. So, and then I think there was some environmental connection too. So
We'll have to see that.
This was the 80s, right?
yes, that's probably
The Dark Crystal has also got a cult following.
Dark Crystal is a great movie. Are they remaking that? Is that
That's
what
been
we heard?
rumored that there was going to be
decades.
another movie, and then I thought the latest rumor was that there was going to be some type of series on Netflix.
Yeah, that's right. A show.
So I don't know how true that is. They did recently reboot the comic book.
Oh.
So there is a Dark Crystal comic book out. I think it's carrying on after that movie.
Yeah.
I haven't picked it up, so I'm not sure about that. But that one is out on the comic stands right now.
All right. So, what's up with you and Conan?
I don't know. There was just something about that movie.
Yeah.
It was just, and there's hardly any dialogue. Like I look at that movie now, and I'm like, how did I like this movie as a kid? Because
It's all visual.
I guess
It's all
maybe.
visual.
But there was just I want that sword so bad. So I wanted that Conan sword.
Ren Fair's coming up, Rick. Ren Fair's coming up. We can
for
probably
sure.
find it
I could
there.
probably. And then I loved Conan the Destroyer too. And then again, watching it now as an adult, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really cheesy. There's some pretty rubbery effects in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But they keep their viewability, I think.
Yes.
You can go, I've been trying to catch up, I'll put a movie on, we have a few of these on DVD, so I wanted to catch up. I'll put them on before I go to bed, or, as I'm going to bed, and I put them on, and within, 10 minutes I'm fast asleep, so I've seen the beginnings of, 6 of these films. And watching Clash of the Titans, and they show there's a seagull flying.
Oh yeah.
But then they get to a CG scene of it going through the canyon, and you're like, that doesn't even look like the same bird, let alone a real bird or
It was Poseidon too, wasn't it?
But doesn't it take you back?
Poseidon
Yeah, it
was
was
coming to see
Poseidon.
Zeus.
I think it takes you back, though, doesn't it?
does.
The simpler
it does,
effects. You can laugh at how corny they are, but there's something to be said for that kind of rustic viewing of seeing the green screen and whatnot.
Viewing, I like that.
Thank you. It's organic.
Well, that, in my opinion, is the real beauty of those movies from that era, was that we had practical effects. You had, to me, the biggest cop-out, and I think the worst thing to happen to movies is
CGI.
CG. It takes the fun out of it for,
Yeah.
For some things. I mean, when you look at 1977 and how they did Star Wars with the matte paintings and the, they created
models, the miniature
models, and it's like,
gosh.
They had to, now, of course they have to work now to create these things on computers, but it just doesn't have the same feeling to it. And, I think that's the magic and the beauty of those films that keeps that, reviewability or whatever.
Well,
I think I just made that
Not to
word.
get off topic of what we're
Right,
talking about now, but the Star Wars that came out, which The Force Awakens,
Make me give you the axe.
they did a lot of practical effects like that. That's why I think I like that movie more, is because they did a lot of practical stuff in that movie.
Right, I remember
which I thought was really, really cool.
The director saying he wanted
J.J.
to do,
Abrams did that, yeah.
more of those kind of things, and I
That's
can
why I like
appreciate that.
Guillermo del Toro,
Mm-hmm.
because he still uses a lot of practical effects in his creatures.
Yeah.
And I was sad because the last season of Face Off was just this past summer on Sci-Fi, and that was one of my favorite shows where they just have makeup artists come on and do practical makeups on people, and it's just so cool what they can do. And I'd hate to see that art go by the wayside.
Yeah.
I mean, Stan Winston and all of his creatures. And who did all the stop motion?
Harryhausen?
animation?
Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
I was going to mention he was. I think he contributed to Clash of the Titans.
He did.
Yes,
He did.
The Kraken.
And
Yeah, I mean,
the demon,
Calibus, even I think
Calibus,
some
yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
The Scorpions.
Yes.
What was the three-headed dog?
Cerebus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kara.
That's right. Yeah. And when the cities
Bubo out again.
when the cities
Falling
falling,
Bubo out again.
Oh,
when the Kraken's released and the
Yes.
city's falling, and
Kraken.
you're looking at what you're looking at. It's not But
it was
But
exciting.
it worked.
Yeah, it did.
It
did.
or at least it worked back in the day.
Mhm.
People now probably couldn't handle that kind of.
Right.
Kids today, they'd watch that movie and go, "This looks ridiculous."
Yeah, Medusa's head looks so fake with those snakes moving around.
But at the time, it terrified us.
Yeah, it was. It was.
We were much easier to please than.
And when I walked out of that theater, the first thing I wanted to do was go to a toy store and find to see if they had toys. That's
Yeah.
that's still how I judge movies. Even though it's like, okay, would I go buy the toy of this movie? No. But if it gives me that feeling of like, man, I wonder if they have toys of this.
And did you find toys for Clash of the Titans?
Clash of the Titans, yeah, and I'm kind of bummed that I got rid of those, but I had
Yeah, I am too.
I had all the figures, and then I had the Pegasus. I was never able to get the Kraken, but I did have. I think there was only 4 figures at the time: Perseus, Calibus, Charon, and then what was the guard, like the.
Oh, I forget his name.
I forgot his
exactly who
name.
you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but I had those 4, and then the Pegasus.
Wow.
Yeah, I did too. And then I only got this kid that we knew. He had the Kraken, so I got to play with it at least once. And
No.
yeah, that was
So you
about.
got to play with this kid's Kraken?
Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did, Rob.
Oh,
But I didn't show my
lucky
Virgo. I didn't show my Virgo.
Well, that's good.
what were some other movies that came out?
So let's see. Segueing in 83, we had Deathstalker.
Yes. That
And
movie has, in the first 10 minutes, I think 4 rape scenes.
yeah, it's pretty
What?
All right,
pretty brutal.
We've got kids watching.
I'm just saying, this was the genre.
That is
Right.
true.
Can I-
And it was like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just
It was a
weird how acceptable
misogynistic
it was.
kind of genre.
Yeah.
The girls were all scantily clad. They were all
Yeah.
being whipped or chained up or dragged behind a.
It was odd that was. So I don't know. Maybe because we were kids, we just didn't hear it. But I don't remember anyone ever like protesting any of that or saying don't go see movies like. So it's just odd how that was
It didn't happen.
so accepted back then. Like,
Yeah.
but okay.
We also had Kroll.
Kroll.
I
Kroll.
had the
It's one of the only things you'll remember is
That's the only
It's like
thing.
the-
I remember
starfish
that was on
weapon.
that poster.
yeah.
Now, is that
Kind of
is that a
forgettable.
sci-fi movie or a fantasy film?
Fantasy.
kind of crossed over.
It's a crossover because it's fantasy, but then again, you've got your sci-fi aspect,
Right.
which some of them did do. So that's it really for 83. 84?
Let's backtrack for a minute, though,
Yes.
because we really didn't talk about Beastmaster.
No, we didn't.
The first movie to feature ferrets.
Love
Poto and
that.
Poto. That's what I'm talking about. Who did not want to own a ferret after that movie?
Yeah, probably every animal shelter was
Nightmare,
filled with
probably with.
ferrets 6 months after that movie came
These
out.
things stink.
Yeah, we had a ferret.
That was a great movie, though. I really enjoyed that movie.
I enjoy
Great
that
is
one.
a relative term.
Okay, well,
It's a fun movie.
It's fun movie.
great with a small G.
Aw.
Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
like that always like, I just thought about this. I always get disappointed. I thought I was going to run into more quicksand and lava in my life.
Oh yeah.
I always thought that was going to be a bigger problem because
As a kid, you always do.
like, there's tons of quicksand all the time in these movies.
Oh, yeah.
And lava.
That is true.
I've never-
There's always a
Like
quicksand.
there was a
Yeah.
quicksand scene in Beastmaster that just terrified me. I was like, oh my god, where is this at?
Yeah.
And I haven't run across
That was
quicksand yet. I mean, I've been stuck in the mud.
It's
but-
funny.
And then wasn't the guy that played Beastmaster, wasn't he on a sitcom?
Mark Singer.
Or no, or was I thinking of someone else?
I think you're thinking of William Kraft,
Oh,
the
okay.
greatest American hero.
Maybe. I don't know. I thought he was on something, but I guess not.
Maybe he might have been.
Mark Singer.
Look it up.
He had a sort of career after that. I'm not sure. He did a few things, not a whole lot.
Was he ever in, I never saw any, as much as I like Beastmaster, I never saw any of the sequels.
Yes, he was the Beastmaster in all.
was.
I think there were three
Oh, really?
movies.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have
And
to
it
see
was
those.
Mark Singer in all of them.
Wow.
I'll check
Yeah.
them out then.
And he maintained his mastery over beasts.
Yes, he
through
did.
all three
And his
films.
ferrets throughout.
Okay,
I
was
did
gonna
see
say,
all of
Toto
them.
and Poto are in?
Yeah, you can't have it without the ferrets.
I did watch all those. Yeah.
Yeah, those are good
Like to
fights.
send them off.
Chew the ropes.
Oh, that's right. They did shoot the ropes. All right, we can go back on now. 80.
So 84, we had
First one, too.
Sword of the Valiant, The Warrior and the Sorceress.
That was a David Carradine movie.
Yes,
Is it
sir.
Carradine or Carradine?
I've always said Carradine, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
Tomato, tomato. The Never-Ending Story.
Betray you.
And that may be about all for that one.
Yeah.
So 84
So
wasn't
thoughts?
that Never Ending Story. I mean, that's always a classic.
That is a classic.
You know, what was Falcor? The dragon.
The dragon. The big
Oh,
Big dragon.
the white.
Yeah.
Let me get my
Falcor.
I don't
dog
remember
out.
what he's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a dog.
He does.
Yeah.
He was kind of like half dog, half dragon kind of.
He was
I'm gonna give my dog
adorable.
a haircut like I'm gonna get Miley cut like that.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be amazing. She have a mohawk and then have like
There were some pretty disturbing scenes in that movie. Like when you go back, like when the horses
it's
in
like
the swamp.
heartbreaking.
And
Yeah, it's like.
There's some.
I don't remember that
Well, I
movie
mean,
very well.
do we need to say spoiler at this point? I
No,
mean,
not for that. I wouldn't think so.
Atreyu
Yeah.
loses his horse and
Yeah.
loses what's his horse's name?
And what about the big rock guy?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm just gonna sit here until the night.
my family's all dead.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
it's like
that was sad.
that was
There were some dark elements.
yeah,
Definitely dark
Like
elements.
his mom is dead and like
yeah. So I'm just gonna sit here.
he's getting bullied.
Was
Let
that the
nothing
kid?
take me.
Was that Noah Hathaway, the
Yeah.
kid who played Boxy from
It was Noah
Battlestar
Hathaway's
Galactica?
Yes.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know.
I always wondered if he was related to Anne Hathaway in some way.
Oh,
I never really looked it up.
yeah, that's Boxy.
Alrighty then.
There you go.
Sometime we got to talk about Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah.
That's
no,
another
yeah,
episode.
that's yep. Comparing.
All
What
right.
about the toy lines? There's so many movies, and there wasn't that many toy lines related to the movies. We said there was Clash of the Titans,
Yeah, I did have some of those.
Willow.
I
Willow had a toy
all
line.
of those.
They weren't articulated.
No, they weren't very great.
No.
They were just like the Star Wars.
Yeah, they were just they weren't even.
Were they articulated at
Were
the
they?
shoulders?
No, they
Oh,
were
that's
just-
right. That's
they were
right. They
just
were
Little
statuesque.
sculptures.
Statuesque. They were statuesque.
Well, they weren't exactly
That's true.
statues, so they're
They were,
statue-like.
yeah, they were. They were like just slightly bigger than
Now I remember.
the Green Army Men and slightly smaller than Star Wars. They were cool looking,
Yeah.
but you couldn't
Couldn't
move
do
it.
much.
You couldn't do much anything.
Believe it or not, there was a toy line for the Sword and the Sorcerer, which was an R-rated, definitely not
Not
for
for
children
kids at all. Do
It's
not
one of
watch
those
this
kind
if
of
you're a child.
Yeah. Vegas Toy Squad does not recommend. So
Most of these sword and sorcery movies,
Yeah.
do not watch. If you're a kid, do not watch these unless mom and dad have seen
check
them
the
first.
rating
yes.
and mom and dad.
Yes.
blanket disclaimer.
Yeah.
But I mean and the toys were sort of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like they were all one color.
Mm-hmm.
They were poor sculptures. I have some, but I couldn't find them. I was going to
okay.
have them.
I remember you brought them out the one time. When
I
we
tried
were
to sell them, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's cool. But they didn't.
They were, I don't know, did I mention Fleetwood? That was the company that made them. And,
Yes.
It's like, how do you market for kids a toy from an R-rated film? I mean, I guess they had, did they have other R-rated movie toys?
I don't remember, but they had a bunch of, like, fantasy toys. So, like, when we were talking before we found this line, they were called, let's see, which ones are they? The Other World. And they were rubber. I ordered one from eBay. I wish I could get it. Maybe I'll show it on one of the next episodes. It just didn't get here yet. But they were rubber figures. So they were rubber, and they had the little bendy thing so you could...
The wire inside.
Yeah, the wire inside. So we had those. They had, do you guys remember Dragon Riders of the Sticks? They were like
Vaguely.
little, like, Star Wars guys. They used to have them at, like, Kmart and those kind of stores.
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe, of course, came out
Right, yeah.
at that time. So we'll talk about more of that. We're going to do another episode later on about 80s, and we'll hit Masters of the Universe for sure. Mego had a Conan figure.
Really?
Yeah, because Marvel owned Conan at that time. So he was part of that whole Mego line with the superheroes and everything like that.
Did you have that?
No, I didn't. I always wanted that one, but never. I had Thor, but I could never get Conan. But cool thing about Conan, Marvel got the rights to Conan again. So they're relaunching Conan
I heard
in
that.
January.
I did hear that.
Wait,
yeah.
relaunching as in toy
As in-
line?
Well,
or
as in a comic. So the comic's coming out.
If it's successful
So
enough.
if it's successful enough, hopefully, you got the Marvel Disney juggernaut behind it, or Dwayne Johnson juggernaut behind it.
Can you even say Juggernaut? Isn't that trademark?
Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't using it as.
I know. I
He
know.
was on our show a couple weeks ago, so it's good.
Yeah, he cleared it.
He cleared
That's
it.
true.
He was good with
That's
it.
true.
But I thought that was kind of cool that Conan's coming back. So there's hope, maybe, or another line.
Well, because this last remake was not up to
Yeah,
par.
that's something we ought to also talk about.
Yeah,
we
'cause-
gotta go
Well,
through
do
a
you
couple
want?
more
Well, I mean, do you
years.
just want to? I mean, it started to wane by '85, and I
That
mean,
crap year.
we had in '85 we had Barbarian Queen, which is very eh. We had the Black Cauldron, which is a phenomenal
Yeah,
was great.
that was
Dwayne
great.
Johnson classic. We had Lady Hawk.
Oh, my wife loves that movie.
Lady Hawk, a
Lady
very
I
good.
could not get into that movie.
I liked it. I thought it was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it in like
That was
the top
Matthew
5.
Broderick, right?
Yeah,
Matthew
I think that's
Broderick,
what kept me
Michelle
from-
Pfeiffer, Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
I think those were the main three. It was a good movie. We also had Legend, which we've already talked about
Yeah.
in '85.
Yeah.
Then in '86, Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
Highlander, which I don't know if Highlander is more sci-fi because of the time.
I loved
Crossover.
Highlander when it was in, because the movie cut between past and
Yeah.
present,
Right.
and I loved the past. And then when it cut to the present, I was like,
Yeah.
it's a guy in New York with a sword.
Yeah, why don't they just keep going?
Yeah. And then we move into '87 where we've got, let's see here, The Princess Bride. That's definitely a fantasy film.
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe came out that
Oh,
year.
that poor movie.
And then The Barbarians. Kind of
Brothers.
forgettable.
Yeah.
And then '88 had Willow.
Yeah.
And then we basically are done. So that genre seemed to really spike early on in the '80s and then wane. And now we've had these reboots.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted so badly to like Clash of the Titans
Yeah.
and
Me too.
Wrath of the Titans, and you know me. I mean, I'll sit through it, and I own it.
Us too.
I've yet to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
I just
But,
watched that part of it the other day.
And it's like, I don't know. I wanted so much.
They're
more
so
for it.
forgettable.
Yeah.
You know,
It really
Sam
is.
Worthington was not the right role for Perseus.
Well, he shouldn't have had a buzz cut.
And why did he have a marine haircut,
Haircut.
in Clash when he's supposed to play Perseus?
Yeah.
That made no sense.
So what's the difference? Why does the cheesy, which we all admit the original '82 or '81 version cheesy, but why does that almost hold up as a better film compared to the 2000s version
With all the new
It was told for the first time.
Well,
visually.
but I think they did a better job with the story as well.
Yeah,
I thought they brought in more elements of the Greek gods with that one. I think, when they do these modern reboots, they always try to, at least in my opinion, they try to modernize it and put some kind of political spin on it. It's like, just tell the story. We don't need a modernization of, some modern problem that's going on now. Show us. It's like, just tell the story.
I agree with you there.
So,
for sure.
but
How about the Conan reboot?
man, if they would have just, and we've had this talk before, if they would have made a movie of that little kid Conan,
Yes.
how long is he in the movie for? That opening scene, is it like what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Maybe 10 max.
Man, that would have been
That was cool.
that would have
was
been
the
a
best
cool
part of the
movie, because that was some great stuff.
Yeah.
And then he grew up, and I was like, oh,
Yeah. That's your Aquaman, right? It's the same.
I know, but I liked him as Aquaman.
Yeah.
He's holding
I
out
liked him
hope
as Aquaman, yeah.
for a fish hero.
What about the Scorpion King?
That's true. That's a modern.
That is a modern.
It didn't. I'd rather watch the original Mummy movie.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to say that movie
know?
was just a total mummy ripoff, basically.
Yeah.
It didn't have that magic, whatever the magic is.
Yeah.
Because of the Scorpion King and all that. So.
I think it sometimes has to do with the casting,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes they over CG the whole film, and it loses that feeling.
Realism, yeah.
So those are a couple of things, and then just bad script writing. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, the lines and the script of Clash of the Titans was cheeseball, but something about the genre and the delivery and the I mean, Peter Ustinov as Zeus compared to Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a presence there.
he has a gravitas about him that Liam Neeson does. I don't know. There's a magic to those movies that they cannot bring back, no matter how much CG
They do. Right.
Well, I was thinking about it, and you guys were right. Like you said, like watching the old Conan movies. There wasn't as much talking. They were all visual movies. When you think about it, think about these new movies. They got like 1 million lines, and you're just like, you're saying basically the same thing. like throughout, like you're just like, all right, this conversation could be literally 3 words, but you got a whole monologue here. And like when you think about it, they didn't have like a lot of explanation. They just like, hey Perseus, here's your dad was a god.
Yeah.
Here's your stuff. Go find Pegasus. That was it. Like he was like started messing around with the stuff, and he goes by, and the music comes on, and he's looking at all of his weapons, and he didn't have to explain it. Like this does this, and he just tries it on, and you're like, that makes him invisible. Oh, this does this. And it was just so on and so forth. And you discovered it later. You didn't have a long explanation. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's something. Maybe it was just all visual, and you got to think about it, and
that could be.
It lets you make the story almost rather than all the extra dialogue and.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they feel like modern filmmakers feel like they have to fill every empty space with some kind of dialogue or explanation of the plot or whatever. You know. But
are there any from the 80s that you would like to see remade?
Willow.
It's coming out.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Is it a remake?
Not a remake, it's a sequel.
Oh my god, that's even better.
The same actors that were in the first one are... See, this is what happens when you walk out of trailers.
Well,
actually, there hasn't been any trailers yet. There hasn't been any trailers.
That's okay. That's on my drive.
Yeah, so I'm kind of nervous though to see Val.
Yeah, Val Kilmer's got to get in shape
on
on
the screen.
Yeah.
Ed Morgan's got to
sure
pull
he's
himself back
associated with
together.
the movie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure maybe he's, I don't know.
What about Warwick Davis? Is he going to be in it?
Yeah.
He should be.
Little.
And he was just in Solo, so.
Yeah,
I mean, he's good to go.
He's a pretty young dude. I mean,
He was in the Harry Potter franchise.
I didn't realize he was a kid when he was
a Jedi.
And Ewok.
I just saw a picture recently. I don't know who posted it, but I was like, oh. I mean, I always knew the name, but I didn't know
he was
how
young.
old he was or whatever when it happened. So.
You know what I would rather see than never remake again is Excalibur.
Yeah.
Like Guy Ritchie just tried to do. Did you guys see that movie? The King Arthur movie from Guy Ritchie?
No, I didn't.
Guy Ritchie did
I saw
Snatch, Lock, Stock,
Yeah,
and Two.
I think you advised not to, so
I said like
there's
there's
watched
two
it.
words you should never hear in the same sentence: Guy Ritchie and Excalibur. And
Okay, yeah.
unfortunately, they did it, and it was a
Yeah,
disaster.
huge
I
Guy Ritchie
I love
fans,
Guy Ritchie, I
but
love his
this
movie
was
when he
not-
sticks to- Yeah.
Yeah.
it was not the right pairing at all.
I did enjoy the King Arthur movie from a few years back.
With Clive Owen?
I wish I knew actors and actresses better.
That was the one where it was like they tried to make it a more realistic, like a battle tale
Yes.
of him trying to conquer.
Yeah, and he was a younger
Yeah.
King Arthur. I thought that was
Keira
kind
Knightley.
of
That was
Yes.
yeah.
That's
Keira
the-
Knightley was- I
that's
thought
the
that
one.
was kind of cool.
It
I
was
thought that
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
I like
but
it.
forgettable. Ultimately,
Yeah.
we haven't watched it again.
What about Dragonheart? Was that wasn't 80s, was it? That was
Oh,
90s.
I
That was 90s.
think that was 90s.
Yeah.
I love, hey, he's not,
Sean Connery.
I'm with you. I love Dragonheart.
Connery, that's the dragon.
The dragon.
I love Dragonheart.
I thought that was
ridiculous.
great.
No dissing on
But
that.
didn't Sean Connery play King Arthur
Yep.
in another movie too?
With Richard Gere.
Yes, what was that one?
King's Hand. No, it was like, it was.
Oh, that was 90s too, I
Keep
think.
saying
King
Hand.
and a Gentleman.
King and Sean.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Or something.
But what's that?
Something blue. Was blue in the title?
Oh, I don't remember. Somebody
I don't know.
get on it back there.
Let me try and look it
I
up.
don't
You
know.
guys continue and I'll research
What
that.
about, before we close off over here, what about any of the movies from the 80s? Was there any that you wish that they did have a toy line from? I think you guys can probably guess which one I wish they had a toy line
Yeah,
from.
it's going.
They did. No, Mego just had the one figure.
They just did, yeah. And then
But
later,
What other figures would they make?
oh man, you had in Conan the Destroyer, you had this whole band. You had that little thief dude
Yeah,
with the
band.
knives that
The
he,
Wizard.
the
Yeah.
wizard guy. That
Yes, not a
Not
rock
a real
man.
band.
Not a rock man.
Oh, you
I
mean
love when he would try to open the doors.
Yeah. I mean, they could have even did a llama that spits.
Oh yeah,
I mean, little llama, you squeeze them.
that happens in both movies, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Because he
It does in the
recognizes
first one.
he recognizes the llama or the whatever that is. In
It's
the
a
second
camel.
movie,
The
it's a
camel. Camel. It spits
camel
on
spits
Conan,
on him.
and he punches the camel in the face.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you're like, jeez.
They could have made Grace Jones.
Yeah, that's true.
Was it
Red
Red Chamberlain,
Sonja.
Bombata?
Red Sonja. They could have made the
Yeah,
monster where he pulls the
there's-
horn out of his head.
Oh yeah, Daggett.
Yeah. They could have had a bunch of them.
Just to give you an answer, First Night was the movie with Sean Connery
That's right.
as King Arthur, and that was 95.
Oh wow, okay,
Terrible
well, we
movie.
we can't talk about that one anyways.
Yeah, it's 90s.
But McFarlane did a line of Conan toys just
Right.
just a few years ago that were pretty cool.
Based on that.
Based
those
on that,
movies?
yes,
So
based
it was
on
an
those
Arnold
movies.
sculpt face.
Yes,
Oh,
and
wow.
they weren't very. I don't think they were very articulated, but
Yeah.
I know that they're pretty hot on the collector's market as far as price goes.
I would like to see a figure of Vermithrax Pejorative. Remember who that is?
No.
That's the dragon from Dragonslayer.
Oh, from Dragons.
How nerdy is it that I know that?
Wow! Geek flag!
Man, woo.
But you could do the wizard, and you could do
Oh, yeah.
the
Dragonslayer would have been.
Dragonslayer would be cool.
That's why I kind of like this guy right here. So I know pod people. Sorry, you can't see it. These figures that I have in front of me, these
Pod
are
people.
from the pod listeners.
That's another genre.
That's another
Invasion
genre.
of the Body
Pod
Snatchers.
people. These are the Vitruvian hacks from Boss Fight Studios, and this is the Mage action figure. So they have a line of figures where they've done fantasy and sword and sorcery figures. But when I got this guy, he reminded me of Dragonslayer because he's got the book and he's got all the
Does he have a little
The
glowing
accessories,
ball?
yeah.
Yeah,
he's
he's
got
got
a
one that
little-
comes on fire.
So it's pretty cool
Those
as
are-
far as that goes.
Really cool figures.
They're
Yeah,
really detailed.
This was a Kickstarter thing, right?
They started
Is
as
it
a
over?
Kickstarter, and now they have their company's up and running. They're bringing in horses, so they have horses and unicorns and
Wow, that'd be
Pegasus
really
and
neat.
things like that, and stags. They're doing another line of fantasy figures where they are coming out with a barbarian that's very Conan-esque.
Cool.
So I will be getting that for
Of
sure.
course.
But yeah, it's a really cool line of figures, and they've got like all the different Greek figures. I got a Medusa type figure here and some of the other, but they're cool. It's Vitruvian Hacks, Boss Fight Studios. Check them out on the web. They have Facebook. If you haven't heard of them already. Another one, they're a little bit more expensive, but they're super cool, is Mythic Legends. Mm-hmm. So check out those figures too.
I think a Beastmaster line would be awesome. Like
that would be cool.
They made like the cool animals that he has.
We should do
articulated and.
We should do Lego.
No, that would be a
because
good one.
you could make ferrets.
Yeah.
They have the little Lego rat guys. You can make those into ferrets.
You can do that, and then they have the Panthers and.
Rob's like, yeah.
I'm out.
The gears are cranking over there.
I bet you if you search Excalibur Lego, I bet you there's some people that
Somebody's
have done Excalibur
probably made
Legos.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out too, for sure.
Those would be cool figures.
Yeah, that would be
fun.
cool. Yeah.
That would be really neat.
Skull cap.
I'm surprised they haven't done those yet.
Yeah.
McFarlane doing those, that would be cool.
Yes.
The Four Horsemen,
That would be
sculpting
really
those,
neat.
that would be really cool. That would be awesome.
You know what I was going to say? When I mentioned the dragon and Dragonslayer, it took me back to our conversation from earlier when we were talking about what separates these movies, and that movie was about that dragon mainly, and you hardly ever saw that. So when you did, it was a big moment for you, and I think that's part of the problem is like now because it's so easy to show the creatures because they just
right.
Type it into the computer and create. I'm not that it's super easy to do CG.
No, yeah,
I'm just saying, but to make the model and I mean, so
I agree.
Look at that, like Jaws. Not to divert, but that movie is about a shark that you see for a total of probably 2 minutes. 2-3 minutes through the whole thing. So that was part of the imagination of it that you had to bring to it. And the anticipation of waiting to see that creature, during those moments. And now you just put it all out there.
Like, I know they're going to show me the whole creature in a few seconds, so you don't really.
You're gonna get mad about this, but I'm gonna bring up.
Oh no!
I'm gonna bring up the show again. In the show, they wait to show the dragon for the longest time. Sorry. Let me.
Which show?
What show?
In what? I can't
Game
remember.
of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Oh. Okay.
They hardly show the dragon
Right.
in action. They're always like, "Oh my God, these dragons are gonna come. The dragons are coming."
Yeah.
It's not until like the later episodes that you actually see them, like the power of them and like the actual like awestruck moments, like you guys are talking about. And like I think they nailed it with that stuff. That's why it was so powerful. And like you guys were saying before.
I bet you they probably watched Dragon because going back to Dragonslayer, I think that's one of the best movies where they do show the dragon coming in and the devastation that happens to the village. That's a really cool.
You're right.
And you get when they show his eye open up and just his claw. They give you a real sense of scale and the ferocity of this creature.
The more we talk about, the more I like that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And then we watched Reign of Fire the other night. Were you? No.
Yes.
I guess.
Oh yeah, but isn't that like apocalyptic?
Yeah,
that was a fun movie.
Taking the dragon thing, but bringing it in.
Awakens.
Because then they're flying around in their like planes and helicopters.
And Batman, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
That's right. That was a fun.
But it is a fun movie. We saw that in the theater. That was
It couldn't be. It's not considered a sword and sorcery or sword and sandal movie of the modern times.
Purified dragons, man. It'd
So-
be not cooler if you did.
We should probably wrap this
I
up.
remember these lines
I
from
know.
all these random films.
I hit my kids at school today with a Ghostbuster line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they all looked at me like,
what's the line?
I forgot something was going on, and I was like, "This is just crazy. It's like cats and dogs living together." And it's just,
Whoosh.
yeah, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
Poor kids. They probably thought I was crazy. But as we close this up for our closing thoughts, do we miss this genre? Is there still enough coming out that we're satisfied? I mean, we got Lord of the Rings, we got Game of Thrones, like we mentioned, we've got these other. Is this a genre that we want to see revived and come back? What are your
Is this
thoughts?
versus?
No, not yet.
All right.
I'd like to see it explored more.
Yeah.
Like, I totally would. Like, I'd like to see, for example, like the Greek gods done better.
Yeah.
Like,
that would
there's
be
so many
cool.
storylines that
Like
they
the
do.
Percy Jackson
Not
movie.
cram it. They cram everything into one movie. It's like give that one story
I love that
time
book.
to marinate and unfold.
Yeah.
Right.
I love the Percy Jackson books. I
Yeah.
thought the movies were okay. but they could have been done better. But like Frank, that would be awesome to see.
There's a lot of meat there in those, a lot of fodder for films and those stories, and somebody could do it. I mean, of course, they'd have to do it all CG.
Well, I mean, it's like you said, they're doing all these different universes which chain together. They could easily do that, let that story unfold, and just like have one like God be the God of other movies, like, and they could link them together, but give that one story time instead of trying to fit every single God into one.
So many other mythologies that they got.
Right.
I mean, they tried to do it with the Egyptian movie just a few years back.
Which one was that?
I think it was called like Egyptian gods or something.
It might have been something like that.
Oh, yeah. Boy, was that a stinker.
It wasn't even B.
Gods of Egypt.
It was like a D movie.
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah, I have
That was
Sasquatch
painful.
movies that are a little bit better than that.
Exactly.
I mean, instead of just rehashing, instead of rehashing all these old movies and doing sequels and
do something new.
Go mine all that old material and pull some, these great stories from, mythology or whatever, and
I'd love to see something like that. Just like the non-popular ones would be awesome, like that bring something new and be like, what is this? And you get people excited.
Well, there's a whole genre of books from that era too that they could, if they're looking for ideas, they could, go into a Barnes and Noble and check that section. You'll find so many storylines right there.
Really cool. All right, so closing thoughts before we get to the versus segment. Rob looks nervous. He looks nervous. He's like,
let's get to it.
Let's get to the verses. All right, so we've pretty much exhausted the fantasy thing. In my mind, I kind of think, that fantasy, it's there, but it's not as fruitful as it was in the past. So it's kind of gone a little barren for me, a little dry. I've had Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Those were wonderful
but
additions to the genre.
I need more, I need more.
I'd like to say that I've been waiting since 1980 for a good Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh, yeah.
Keep
when
waiting.
I first started
Keep
playing
waiting,
D&D when I was a kid, I thought, this is going to make a great movie, a dungeon crawl.
All
We've
kinds of
had
stuff,
4 D&D movies, like official Dungeons and Dragons movies. And
they're all
complete garbage. Not even worth
not good.
the film they're putting on. They have nothing to do with anything that has to do with Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And I thought, as popular as that game was, at least at that time, and I think that's probably because D&D was kind of came into it about late 70s, I think, and then it hit the heyday in the early to mid 80s. I think that maybe the fantasy film thing was a response to that, And they could not make one D&D movie that was worth watching.
No.
So that's what I'd like to see,
But we have had a movie that has tons and tons of fans. You even brought in some of the products today about this movie. Conventions, the whole 9 yards, starting with the book series. So, of course, I'm talking about Harry Potter. So, for our versus question, here's my thing. Does the Harry Potter franchise satisfy and fill the niche of the sword and sorcery films?
I'm going to say no way. No way. I think there's a part of it, and it's got a lot of magic, but it all takes place in modern times. It's not that film. Like I said, like Game of Thrones, I think that's my only fill that I can get right now.
Of fantasy? So you would not call it Harry Potter?
No way. I would say I don't know what else you would call it other than a fantasy, because I don't know where it fits. It's not exactly sci-fi, but as far as filling that void, I don't think so. Like I'm a fan of it, clearly. But,
yeah, you are. Yeah.
But in that genre, like I don't think it's solid. I don't know. I just don't think it's timely enough.
They're among my.
This question for you.
Thank you. That whole franchise between the books and the series, the film series, they're among my absolute favorite. You guys know that. But I agree with Frank. They don't give me.
I thought she would be on the other side.
They don't give me what I got from Dragonslayer, from Clash, from Excalibur, from The Sword and the Sorcerer, my all-time fave of that genre. They don't give me that experience, but Game of Thrones does. So I think Game of Thrones sort of fills that, but it's going to end pretty soon, and that's heartbreaking. Harry Potter does other things for me. It fills a lot of other childhood voids, and it just takes me to a place that I could go at any time, and I feel like I just want to live there. But it's not that historical, retro, back in time where, like, this is what they were actually dealing with. Yeah. Yes, in Harry Potter there are dragons, but it's a modern telling. Even with Fantastic Beasts, it's still a modern telling. Right. But, I'm excited for that because it's going to bring those creatures onto the screen and take me back to sorcery and magic, and that's going to be fun. But it's not the same as these fantasy films from that time period.
Well, I think that's a first for VTS. We don't have a clear either side there. So.
Well, Rob's still got a way in over here.
I say for sure. I mean, I like Harry Potter. I like the movies. I'm not as much of a fan as you guys are. So I would definitely say no way.
Okay.
In any way, shape, or form does that even come close to filming.
See, that's what I mean.
The niche of fantasy films. Not enough swords and barbarians.
Maybe for the generation, the younger generation, those films fill that niche. Maybe if you talk to 20, 30-year-olds about fantasy films, they would say Harry Potter. I mean that that could fill. For us, it doesn't because I think for us it has to have sort of that vintageness about it. I mean, even the ones like we've said, the remake of the Clash of the Titans and the remake of the Conan movies don't have that vintage charm or whatever, that magic that we enjoyed from sword and sorcery movies in general. So I think you can say that the Harry Potter films fill a fantasy niche for people of this generation. But I think probably a better example would be like the Lord of the Rings films, the Hobbit films. Those really are the modern day kind of fantasy films. I turned that off so it wouldn't ring, but I guess I didn't.
You were saying how Harry Potter could be filled that niche for younger people, because that's what they know. So we don't have anything right now, I don't think, other than the Lord of the Rings films, which really, stand alone as the big fantasy films of the modern times, and they're awesome movies. They've got to be more than that. Well, there, like you said, there's a lot that came straight to DVD and a lot of smaller releases ones, that are noteworthy and fun to watch. So,
but none of the big blockbusters, like we had back in '81.
All right. Well, with
the '80s.
That being said, I guess we're going to bring this squad cast to a close. Like always, we want to thank you guys for joining us and watching and listening. Remember all the cool places you can find us now. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Google Play. Of course, Podbean, where we started this all, and then on our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Check out our daily fets. Rob's got some unboxing videos that are coming out that we'll put up on our YouTube as well. He got some really cool stuff in the last thing he was just showing me before we filmed. So a lot of stuff to look forward to. We've got a Ren Fair coming up here in Las Vegas, so you might see some footage of that here in the near future. We got a couple episodes in the works talking about 80s and some other things. So thank you so much for joining Vegas Toy Squad.
Yes.
You guys got anything else?
No, thanks for coming by.
I think we're good.
All right. Well, VTS is out.